And I know you didn't want to make it about you guys, but I think it's probably worth at least highlighting a little bit, because if they haven't gathered to this point how difficult it is. Like Astro, I think when you say, hey, this is really tough to do, just a little bit like your background in particular, being a weapons school graduate, a test pilot school graduate, like that's a pretty rare thing. So you're a graduated squadron commander, and I didn't know this until I started doing air shows. The Blues graduated squadron commander, and then usually during the show season, I saw 2 bosses pin on 06.
Yes.
Has the Thunderbirds normally done that, or is it usually that is stepping into a squadron command position, not having been a graduated squadron commander? Is that a change, or how does that work?
It's a change, Rain. You nailed it. And that was, to our question earlier about what we got out of the Blues, that was one of the things that COMAC signed off on once he understood the importance of that. Because if you are walking into Thunderbird 1 as your very first command position, something's going to give. It's very unlikely that you're going to be able to perform as a squadron commander for the first time, and everything that entails, as well as lead a demo 12 times a week. We don't have weekends. I think that's important to understand for folks. That moment of that you get, after a tough week of work, we don't have that. And so there's very little time to just sit down and catch up on your admin or, whatever else you had to do, whether that be in your personal life or your professional life. And so there's very little time to just go, okay, how can I get ahead? It is every day is a pretty challenging day. Yeah, I'm not kidding, Rain. You hit on my background a little bit. I'll use that to just say that this is definitely the hardest flying I've ever done, and the most challenging day-to-day strategic thought that I've had to do as well. There's a lot that goes on.
You think about here's the show season. You look at the calendar. Like, here's where it starts. Here's the events. Here's where it ends. That's just one of your seasons. You don't have an off season. You have a show season and you have a training season. And the training season is when you shuffle the manpower. So all the people move. Some people join the team. So there's a spin up. They move positions. And so maintaining that strong cohesion of a high performance team with that much turnover every 12 to 24 months is, I think it's something that doesn't get enough attention. But it's, you look at the Thunderbirds, you see the aircraft, or the Blue Angels, you see the aircraft, see the people, and you assume that they're the same people from season to season, but they're not.
Yeah, I'll take a stab at that if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
First off, I'll say, like any good brother, if big Air Force, big Navy saw us with this setup, coming into this, they'd remove those silver oak leaves from us. But if they got to meet Boss Astro, no doubt they'd be putting a star or 2 on him, because he's a solid guy. So we've enjoyed working together for sure. People don't realize that, a lot of times I think we go to Crowdline, we engage with the American public, and a lot of times there's this perception that you join the military and you're a Blue Angel or a Thunderbird, right? And it's, couldn't be further from the truth. And I know both teams have worked hard to reconnect with, what we call in the Navy, the fleet for y'all, your fighter force, right? Like showing people that, hey, we come from flying gray jets, and that's what we go back to after this tour. This is just a small moment in time that we get to go and highlight the, all the men and women that are serving around the globe doing all these great things that are out of eyesight. So there is that piece. I know for us, we are gone, 300 days, so it's busy, and you have to learn that as a newbie coming in. 1/3 of our team is new every year. 1/3 of our enlisted force. A little over, half of our flight demonstrations, so half of the Delta, 3 of our 6 pilots every year are new, and then just shy of half of our wardroom, our officer wardroom of 16 or 17 officers, is new every year. Is learning it for the first time. So to achieve that level of excellence, we're always shooting for perfection, but in the end we catch excellence. To do that, you have to have I think it speaks to just having standards, having this culture of caring and a culture of excellence. You're just always shooting for the best version. You're hitting yourself on the most minute details. We always say there's no minutia in the Blue Angels, and there really isn't, because there's no detail that should be overlooked. It's something we definitely carry over from the strike fighter community. And we're, again, just trying to make the most perfect show, the most perfect execution possible in the end, so that we make a meaningful impact.
And to your point, when people go to an air show, there's lots of different demonstrations you see. You see individual airplanes doing demonstrations. You see formations and teams doing demonstrations. But what sets the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds apart, in my opinion, is that it's a team of people who rotate on a continual basis. Unlike some of the other teams that you might see at an air show, they've been flying together for years and years and years. The Thunderbirds and Blue Angels don't do that. Every season, they're rotating people out of their team, and they're able to execute on such a high level that I think it speaks a lot to, what Fizzle was talking about, where you shoot for perfection and you'll achieve excellence. But I mean, Astro, you and I have talked a lot about just team dynamics. It's not just, hey, this is the precision flying example for, in this case, the Air Force. The squadron itself is the other story, where it is the example squadron.
Yes.
For the Air Force. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. Let me paint that picture for the listeners. So, a lot of assumptions that I even had as an Air Force fighter pilot, growing up, well into my Air Force career, in fact, I was surprised by how untrue they were. So let me give you a couple of those assumptions. So assumption one, the Thunderbirds is 6 pilots. Nope, it's 135 people. The assumption that I think a lot of people make when they see us in the crowd of, okay, this is the air show. This is our air show in Montana, so this must be what the Thunderbirds did this year. And then they train for the other, 359 days a year that they weren't at this air show in Montana. Not true. We're the only Thunderbirds in the United States. Every single show that we fly, every single weekend, sometimes with midweek shows, that's all one team, one set of people, one group of 135 people, officer enlisted, that are doing all the travel across the country and bringing it back home and rebuilding. The assumption of swap outs, absolutely, you hit on that. Everyone assumes that we've been the same team for 70 years, and I guess you get old and your tenure expires and somebody fills in the caps. But nope, it's every single year we swap out 50% of the flyers and 1/3 of the enlisted, exactly like Fizzle just talked about. And then where it gets really interesting is when you walk into the Thunderbirds hangar, you inevitably have a moment where you say, "Wow, I'm assuming this squadron is extremely well funded and has all the money and all the manpower and all the time, because look at this hangar, right? It's huge. It's red, white, and blue. It's clean. The floor's polished. It's got a big American flag in the background. This is where all our money's going." Not true. That is the oldest hangar on Nellis Air Force Base. It was built in 1956. It was the first hangar on the base, and it should be in shambles right now based on the average squadron infrastructure budget that we have in the Air Force. The reason it's not is because our entire team is committed to that culture of creating a beacon of excellence in the name of service to something bigger than ourselves. One of our sayings is we expect to have an almost unbelievable attention to detail. And so when we patch in a new class, for example, whether you're officer or enlisted, whatever the case may be, when you're trying to earn your patch for those first couple of weeks, you literally polish the brass in the hangar. You polish the patch in the middle of our hangar floor every single day. You polish the floor of the hangar every single week, and that goes on well past patch. It's just the expectation for the squadron to be at that level of precision and detail, and it's contagious. When you set that as the bar, people do rise to it, and they rise to it enthusiastically. And then what gets exciting is they believe in the mission enough to go and learn other people's jobs. And so some of the things that I hear big Air Force talk about, agile combat employment, agile combat support, multi-capable airmen, the irony is I'm pretty sure the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds have been doing that for about 70 years. And 30 AFSCs in one squadron, for example. That's a lot. And you have to believe in the mission to bring that many people together in a unified way.
Yeah, I always say I don't think you find that type of cohesion and dedication to the mission. Now, granted, we are in a peacetime mission, but I think the only other places I've seen it is in combat. You see people kind of unify. It's a common objective, common goal. Everyone's working towards it. We get to be a part of that day in and day out. It's pretty awesome.